Hello and welcome back. Today we are at the M1 Concourse racetrack in Pontiac, Michigan for the M1 Cycling Classic. This is only the second time that there's been a circuit or a criterium race at this course. The last time would have been about 5 years ago, so really just excited to get on the course, get to experience something new, and really everyone getting to do something new here. And there was really a great atmosphere, this being a weekend event, both Saturday and Sunday. A lot of people coming out, really having crowd noise and cheering was really fun and something that's a little bit different compared to the Wednesdays I've been doing. What also made this one really exciting for me, at least, was through the Waterford Wednesday Criterium series, I had gained enough points that I was going to have to upgrade from Cat 4 to Cat 3 after this event, given that I got any points at this event. And so this was going to be my last event as a Cat 4. I did pretty well through the Waterford Wednesday Criterium series. A lot of second places, third places, fourth places, but I never actually won a race. So, with this being my last Cat 4 race that I was going to be able to compete in, I really wanted to win this one. This race here took place on Sunday, and on Saturday, what they had was they had two events. One was a fondo, just the track being open for 2 hours to come, jump on, jump off, just get a ride the course for people who weren't planning on racing the next day, but also for those that were racing, kind of get a little bit of experience on the track and start to get used to it. But what they had, the second event, was really a ton of fun, and it was an elimination race. And so actually, if you look right here, you'll see some barriers on the right side. So for the elimination race, they took down those barriers, which connects back to the course, and we did an elimination race on that truncated circle part of the course. So on one hand, I'd never done an elimination race before, and so getting to do that was just absolutely a blast. Kind of being able to kind of sit at the back and sprint back to the front every single lap and make sure I didn't get eliminated. Just something totally different compared to these criteriums or circuit races. So that was fun, but I think even more importantly, what it did was it gave me many laps of practice for the final sprint that would be the finish line for this race as well. So I actually felt pretty good going into this race, that I kind of understood how the finish would go and where I needed to be, how I could, what kind of power I needed to be through those last turns to really be able to then power up and hit the finish line at full speed. So I had some confidence going into this because of that event. The racer you see up at the front, one of the two base media guys in red, also did the elimination race with me the day before as well. I ended up winning the elimination race. He ended up taking second in the elimination race, so I knew he was pretty strong, and he had the same experience I did with that finish, so he was going to be able to navigate it pretty well as well. And so now that we're in the race, we hit the one hairpin turn that this course has. We're now on the back straightaway. We're going to come through this turn here. There's going to be one hill on the course that climbs back up into that final set of bends before the final straight. And so looking at who's in this race, kind of thinking, who do I need to follow? Who do I need to make sure I'm with? So you do see two base media guys in red here up at the front. They're both very strong, and if they're gonna go together, that was like a big key for me. I got to make sure I stay with them, just in case they try to. They're probably strong enough to kind of go back and forth and keep a good breakaway going, or who knows what they're gonna do. So I just want to make sure I'm on their tail. Certainly at the end, again, because I've seen sort of how the finish goes and how strong he can be in a sprint, and so that's one of the key set of people that I was paying attention to. The other one is the morning cranks had quite a few people in this race. They're all strong, and then on top of that, in the Wednesday races, they always are really coordinated together. They always are attacking, and then counter. As soon as their guy gets caught, another guy on their team goes. They're really good with strategy, really good with punishing the field, and so looking and paying attention to where they're at and making sure we understand what the next move that they're going to make is was another one I was really paying attention to here. So right here, again, both base media guys are together and they're way off the front. This guy didn't chase, and I realized, you know, who knows? I got to go right away. We're a lap and a half into this race, but I'm not letting these two guys drive off the front by themselves. So I close this gap and get right on their wheel. You know, and the rest of the field comes with me, so we're all together, but I certainly was not going to let them easily run off the front, because, you know, they could work together and stay away potentially. So once I catch up with them, I'm just going to stick on their wheel like glue, and they're going to come into the first straightaway before the hairpin turn, and, you know, one pulls off, one goes up, and I just create the gap and say, hey, you know, no, if you guys are going to rotate, you know, I'm not joining in. You just keep going. I would be perfectly happy to be in a three-man breakaway with the two of them and make them do all the work. That would be great to me. Again, everyone's still right behind us, so this big dig that they did right away didn't really do anything anyway. And we do have one guy off the front, as you'll see in the orange Zwift jersey. He ended up being a really good rider, but, you know, one of those things that you see somebody come in a Zwift kit, and I was just there, you know, a few months ago, so I'm poking at myself. You know, I didn't have a kit per se, but, you know, you see somebody go, okay, all their racing is indoors, and can they actually bike handle? You know, I was somebody 2 months ago, I certainly couldn't bike handle at all. I still can barely bike handle. But you see that and you get a little concerned about how that might turn out. Now, what's interesting here is, so they dug hard coming, you know, really throughout a whole half a lap to catch up to that rider in the Zwift kit. When they finally caught up to him about 30 seconds ago, I thought they were just going to blow past him and really try to keep a breakaway going with the two of them, and they just settled right down. So I'm not sure why we dug so hard to catch that rider out front, and you know, and they did all that work and not try to push the pace even further and control the pace. You know, we didn't need to catch that rider right then. He was going to come back eventually. And you can see, you know, some people went kind of pushed the pace to the inside there before the bend, and now we've settled into a good pace. Again, I'm trying just to make sure I stay with the base media guys, and just see what the next attack is going to be. So the two base media guys, Noah and Chris, they do a ton of work in this race. You can see they're setting the pace at the front. They're both up there. They were up there before as well. And then as soon as we'll see as we come around here, we're gonna see another attack. I think from one of the Lexus Velodrome guys. I think, and you know, not only are they setting, you know, were the two base media guys setting the pace at the front, they're then the you know, really the first ones to cover the attack as well. And so, you know, that had to have taken a lot of energy out of them throughout the entire race, which I'm not complaining about at all. You know, it's just, you know, they wanted to set the pace, they wanted to make sure everything was covered. So, you know, that does drain on you throughout 40 minutes, certainly. So a little bit of yelling going on there. You know, different people, probably including myself, tapping the brakes a little bit as the pace of the front really slowed down through this backstretch. And you know, I probably hit my brakes. Other people hit their brakes even harder. You know, that cascading effect that you see in traffic and cars. Same thing happened here. Some people had to bail to the right. Words were exchanged. Like I said, I'm certainly still learning how to be a better bike handler. So some of that may have been my fault. I think everybody was doing a little bit of it though. But we get right back in line. I feel really comfortable with where I'm at. If I can sit here somewhere in like 6th position the entire race, I'm feeling great. I can get to anybody who decides to try to break, and I can conserve energy. So I love right about here. Again, I want to make sure I can see the 2 base media guys. If they go, I can go with them. Don't want any gaps to open. I did find through right here in both races, as we come around that hairpin turn, you really do have to be mindful of when gaps open. If your immediate reaction is as you come out of that hairpin turn to get right on the back wheel of the guy in front of you, but you don't know if that guy's going to be able to cover the distance, because a lot of people come out of that hairpin turn and sprint hard, and so if somebody sits up and doesn't try to cover that gap, you find yourself sitting behind that guy as the gap opens. So certainly that happened a couple times where I realized there's a gap and then you got to go around and cover it. Eventually I started to kind of drift to the inside, and so I could see a little bit better and be able to jump around them a little faster, not have to work quite as hard to cover gaps if they open up. A little bit of a defense mechanism. You gotta sit in the wind a little bit more, but that's fine. Alright, not much happens over the next half a lap, so we're gonna skip a little ahead, about 3/4 of a lap. Okay, so the rider in the Zwift jersey went on another attack just now, and quite a few people jumped on it to cover the break or cover the attack, and we're coming around the corner here to go back up the climb. And I just want to applaud Morning Cranks again. They really do have strategy and tactics throughout the entire thing. So they have a Morning Cranks, 1 or 2 riders up top. This rider directly in front of the base media guy just slows down, soft pedals. The base media guy, not necessarily paying attention for a second, just following a wheel, doesn't realize, hey, this guy just sat up to cause the gap to happen for his teammates, and then he has to go around. And again, didn't have to put a massive dig in. But the fact that they're always thinking about doing those little things, just those little tactics, those little strategies as a team to try to help their other teammates out. It's certainly, this is really the first time they've done it, but it's not going to be the last throughout this race. And so I just want to call out, it really is, it's just nice watching them work together. Okay, so we just heard the bell. This is going to be the first, I think it's actually the first and only preem of the race. There may be another one later on. I just don't remember right now. But this is the first one. No brakes have stuck for more than a half a lap or a lap. I think that the Zwift rider right off the bat went, and I think he stayed for about a full lap, maybe a little less. But every other attack was covered immediately by the field, and so I'm thinking, we're now 15 minutes or so into the race, 14 minutes into the race. Maybe the group that goes for this preem is going to be the one that sticks, and maybe there's a breakaway. So I had learned through the Waterford races not to go for the preems. The one that I ever went for, I just absolutely killed myself, and then got immediately dropped from the breakaway that did form through that effort for the preem. And so my strategy now, not really caring about if it's beer or merchandise or a couple bucks. I don't care about that preem. I want to make sure that I'm there with the group that's going for it, so that I can jump on it. And so that's what I'm thinking about here. Now I just saw one of my teammates, Jonathan. He just attacked off the front, and you can see the group is reacting again. I jump on one of the Morning Cranks riders' wheels so that as they're certainly going to cover it, they're going to bring it back. Just want to make sure I'm there, but don't want to bring anybody else with me per se. But so I try to hit it hard, and again, every single one of these attacks really ends up getting brought back. What I think is really nice, what Jonathan does here is he caused the break, he made everybody react to him and catch him, and then he doesn't sit in the front. He then moved to about third wheel, and look who's on the front again. It's the 2 base media guys setting the pace, having to put out the extra effort. So I think that was great on Jonathan's part. Again, making the field react to him, making everybody put in a dig to catch him, and then he goes to third wheel and makes the 2 people I'm potentially the most concerned about do all of the actual work. I think that's great. Okay, so we're coming up the hill and back to the start finish line, and what you see is, two base media guys. One, grabs the guy's shoulders and tells him something. And then the two base media guys together as well. So I'm thinking, there's gonna be something's gonna happen here. You got multiple teammates from multiple teams, ready to put in some strategy or some effort and cause a breakaway. So again, I just want to be on some wheels. I want to make sure that I'm there with them if they can go. So I think I'm sitting about 6th wheel. I put in the effort to make sure I stay with them. I'm not going to go for the preem. Don't care about it. But I want to make sure I can catch them if a break does happen. So I ended up actually a little bit of a gap here. Needed to put in a little harder effort. Now we can see, what I see is that the front guys sit up. They don't continue the pace, so I'm not concerned anymore about a break happening. They're not putting in that extra dig afterwards to create the separation, and so I'm able to relax as well. I'll give it to this guy in this orange Zwift kit. He really did. He had multiple attacks throughout the entire race. Pushed the pace. Again, outside of that very first one where he went, none of them really caused massive separation. But it's always good to have people, going off the front, pushing that pace up. It slowly dwindles the back of the field down. Less people to sprint against at the end. So he pushed it, and we speed up and he's caught. But that's fine. Okay, as we come around the hairpin turn, here's another example. I stay a little bit to the inside just in case this guy doesn't cover. I want to be able to go around him. But I misread the situations because then it looked like they were going to catch up to that front group. And so I sat back onto this wheel. And then I see that neither one of these guys is actually going to, that this gap is kind of growing. And so as I see that, and as I see that this rider here isn't going to cover it, I end up going around him and covering here, and quickly getting onto this group's wheel. Okay, so we're now coming up to the corner before the bend, before the hill, and this one I don't know if I quite understood the tactic here from Morning Cranks. So we're coming around this corner, and what we're gonna see is one of the riders attack hard to the left. We're gonna see this here. And he's flying. And so we're going to see that, which makes sense. I think all of these attacks are great by them. But then we see their other rider right here on front. He follows. And, he follows. And Noah with base media, he follows. And I follow. And, it's sort of... He does create... I'll give him credit. He does create enough of a gap that we're not really getting a draft from him right away. So he did do what he needed to do. If he was going to go with his teammate, he created separation. But I think had Noah been able to stay on that wheel a little better, he would have dragged him right up to his teammate. So again, I'm not sure I quite agree with the second Morning Cranks rider going with him. And then he drops back. I think that's the one that bridged up. I think I could be wrong on which one did the attack and which one bridged, but I think the one that just went backwards is the one that bridged. And now we're up with the original attacking rider. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it mattered, but I think if I was that first Morning Cranks guy or the second one, I wouldn't have bridged up to my teammate. I would just let him go and see if the gap formed. And you just heard this is the break, so there's at least one person from every single team represented in this. So so I don't know if that was the Matt with Normal Racing who said this is the group. So let's push the pace and let's go. I don't really do a good job of that. I never want to be the person doing effort, so I do put in a little effort here, and then I coast to the corner a little bit. And then Matt goes hard, way too hard. And I honestly, I started to think that he was trying to break away from us and not be part of the break and do a rotation. But then he looks backwards and kind of slows down, and I'm not putting out. Well, okay, I speed back up here a little bit in power, but then I get back on his wheel. So I don't know if that was him pulling through. He just pulled through too hard, or if he was trying to push really hard to say, hey, no, this is the pace that we need to be at if we want to keep this breakaway going. That's probably what he was doing. I'm not sure. And so I was a little confused for a second when he flew by me, and I kind of sat up. And then when he kind of slows down, and he's, they say roll through. And so I think I'm hesitating. Other people are hesitating, trying to figure out, okay, do we want to do a rotation or not? And the pace starts to slow down a little bit, or is a little disorganized. And so that's a perfect time for somebody to go on the offensive and go on a break. And what you can see is, one morning cranks guy goes off the front. The other one goes to the front to set the pace. And by set the pace, I mean go slow, right? So they both roll up there, and one goes off the front. And now we have what will end up being the break that sticks for the majority of this race. So we have a morning cranks guy off the front, and no one who's looking to bring it back immediately, which is pretty nice, right? So every attack up through the first 22 minutes or so, 23 minutes of this race, every single attack, everyone surges, everyone wants to bring it back immediately so that we're at, in one big group. And, that ends up just being a bunch of micro surges. And so what we can do now is say, okay, this is going to be the guy who's going to go, and we can get in a rotation. We can start polling, and we can start trying to plan for, how fast do we need to bring this guy back? How far do we want the gap to go? And reel it in slowly. And so, not much of a reason for anybody else to go hard off the front at this moment. If somebody wanted to go up with him and work with him, we could see that. But at least as a group, and it's a fairly sizable group that we have, even that we could then work as 4, 5, 6 people to bring back 2 if somebody were to do that. But no one does. We're just here, and it's time to start working to bring this guy back. But again, kind of what we say is we have plenty of time. Again, we're only 23, 24 minutes into this race of 40 minutes, so we have plenty of time to slowly reel him in and try to time it right so that we can pass him right at the finish line. The key that we have is that there are multiple other morning cranks guys. I think only one other one made this small group with us, and so what you're looking for is as soon as we catch him, that second morning cranks guy is going to go, right? He's going to be sitting in the back the entire time recovering, and so he's going to come and try to win at the end too, or do a counterattack. So, now we're here, and we have plenty of time. He's not, if it's a 10-second gap or so right now, it's certainly not anything massive. And so I'm putting in a zone 3 effort, nothing big at all, just, kind of in the high 200s, 260 to 290 on the front here, just making sure the gap doesn't get any bigger at this point. That's really all I'm trying to do. My hope, obviously, is that, I do 280 to make the gap not get any bigger, and the next guy who goes on does a little more than me to bring the gap down, 1 second at a time. I don't really want to do the effort to bring him back, but I also want to make sure that we do bring him back, so I don't want to make the gap get any bigger when I'm on the front. Okay, and now what we're going to see is the Zwift rider, well, the rider in the Zwift kit. He ends up attacking out of the break, looking to bridge up to the front rider. And so, which I thought, somebody might try to do. And, what you can pretty much see pretty quickly is, he created the gap on us, but it looks like he settles back down pretty quickly. And so I don't think he's going to catch this guy. And so, we don't need to do anything harder or easier than we were before. Again, I'm on the front. I'm doing about 290, 280 into this corner. and you know, I come up a little bit. Now everybody else, I pull off, and they can continue the chase. And you can see we're bringing back the rider in the Zwift outfit pretty quickly. So again, yeah, I think he was really aggressive throughout this race. I think that's awesome. I think, you know, brings variability into the race. So I think it's great that he went and attacked out of it and tried to bridge. You know, just wasn't able to. And you can see off the front, he's pretty much caught now. But we still have the Morning Cranks rider, you know, again, 10 seconds off the front or so. Well, you can see one of my teammates there, Adam, a little squirrely for a second. You know, it happens to all of us. I think he said he thought the guy would come to the other side or something. I'm not sure. Either way, you know, it does happen. You know, like, you lose balance for a second, but definitely scared Matt for a second, I think, and they had some words. You know, it's all fine at the end of the day, but you know, Adam moved back to the back, and we just continued the chase. And it's not, you know, anything super exciting. You can see the Morning Cranks rider right up there. You know, we're slowly bringing him in, not trying to bring him in quickly at all. So yeah, I feel really good here. You know, certainly that size of a gap can be brought back really quickly if you need it to. But there's no reason to. You know, as soon as we catch him, you got the other Morning Cranks guy to attack. So might as well bring it back right at the end. This is Matt asking me if somebody counters, how am I going to get out? But he flicked his elbow. I kind of thought he wanted me to fill this spot originally. And so I thought he was telling me, hey, you come here and then I'll go behind you for some rest. And then I moved up and he gave me good tips. I mean, it was good for him to say, hey, you know, always think about how you can escape out of a place. It was good advice. I literally had moved up there because I thought he was telling me to. I don't know. So over the next 1.5 laps or so, we end up settling into a pretty good rotation, and we start to reel back in the Morning Cranks rider that's off the front. And so, you know, it's pretty nice here. You know, everybody kind of takes a pull. So Matt pulls through, and then I'll pull through after him. And again, we end up getting now that, you know, we're kind of at the end here, into a nice rotation. Everyone contributes a little bit to make sure that we're reeling him in, that we are going to catch him by the end. So you can see Noah goes on, and then Matt goes back. Then after Matt, I go on. So, you know, through some of this, it was really, maybe there's only 4 of us doing the rotation out of a group of 5 or 6, but, you know, it's fine, and it's certainly enough that we can catch him. I think Matt really does, you know, the lion's share of some of the polling, which was very nice of him. So, you know, I come in, I pull through here, again, still in the high 200s, low 300s. And then drop back to the back. Again, we have another rider. He pulls back off. Matt comes on, and we've shrunk that down maybe to 5 seconds at this point. And as you heard the bell, this is now going to be the final lap, and we're going to get sort of the final piece of tactics from the other Morning Crank rider, who's been, you know, shielded from the wind in the back this entire time. So we've come through the start-finish line, and we're going to take this corner, and then what we're going to end up seeing is coming from from the right side, we're going to have the other Morning Cranks rider, if I could speak. He comes up, he goes right to the front, and then stops pedaling, which is just hilarious. I think I said, get your big fat butt out of our way, which is a pretty PG version of what I was thinking. It was no insult to his rear end, of course. Again, it's just fun to have nice little tactics like that, right? To come in and try to disrupt the chase so that your teammate can stay out there. But we're gonna bring him in. So Noah goes off. I go on. Now I'm in the high 300s, back or the low 300s instead of the high 290s. Want to make sure we bring him in now. Want to close that gap. We certainly are going to. You can see how close he is now. So we're gonna take this corner. We're gonna come back out of the hairpin turn, and we're now we're really in the last half of the lap at this point. Matt goes, Noah goes. This is ideally exactly where I want to be. I would love to be third wheel, fourth wheel if you count the guy who's off the front. And I'm very much content to be here if we're gonna catch him. Now we see we see two more guys go. We don't have a full group. I'm now sixth wheel. I don't know if I want to be that far back, but we still have plenty of time. There's still so much space left in this race that I'm not overly concerned. Not happy a guy comes to my left. That to me is like my escape valve, the left side, if I need to get out. So saw him, that kind of concerned me for a second, but I'm fine. Now that pace really picks up. Okay, we've caught the morning cranks rider, and so now the guy who's been recovering is gonna go. I'm just trying to follow Noah. I know he has a great sprint. I know he's gonna be there. I'm just gonna try to stick on his wheel. Now what does happen is he goes way to the right, and I feel like I wanted to stay to the left, so I ended up actually breaking from the wheel I wanted to be on and on Matt's. It's not really where I wanted to be for the final sprint, so now I'm a little concerned. I'm sixth wheel back, coming into the last bend, and I got to get over to the side of Matt so I can get around. Now I have to take the long way. I got to cover a lot of ground. There's a lot of guys here, but it seems like Noah slows down, Robert slows down. They slowed down before their sprint, and so I was able to accelerate hard through my sprint and pass them to end up taking first in the race. And we'll just play that finish one more time. So, I'm behind Matt. I think I'm fifth wheel is what I ended up being, but you can see how big of a gap there is. You can see Robert in the green way up there. And so, I come to the left. To me, that's a lot of distance to cover, and I'm really getting concerned. But you see Noah, he's still sitting. He's not up out of the saddle yet. Neither is Robert. And so I ended up covering this ground pretty quickly because he really hasn't started to sprint. He just, now he's out of the saddle. Now he's starting to sprint, but I've already started to really get some acceleration going. And so I'm able to fly by him. I end up getting enough acceleration to also fly by this morning cranks rider and end up coming in to take first. So my first win ever as a Cat 4 is also my last race as a Cat 4. It was awesome. I'll say, M1 Concourse, this racetrack is a really fun racetrack. The race was put on by Base Media. They did a great job. There was great turnout, fans, people cheering. There was music on. There gave a fist bump to Noah. He took third. I took first. I had raced against him the day before in that elimination race where I took first and he took second. Chatted with him after that race before this one. Really nice kid. So it was really great getting to chat and meet with other racers from the racing community. This event really was just a ton of fun. Hoping that we have it again next year for sure. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next race.